Hi guys, it's Steffi from the Novelty Corner. Welcome back to my channel and welcome to my weekly wrap up for the week of April the 9th to the 15th. This week I read a grand total of 6 books, which was really exciting. Granted, I am on school holidays, so I do have a bit more time to read. And with those 6 books, I read a grand total of 1,781 pages. Without further ado, I'm going to get into my wrap up. The first book that I read this week was Defy the Stars by Claudia Gray. If you follow my channel, you may have seen that I uploaded a book vlog for this earlier this week, so I will leave a link to that on the screen so you can check it out, because obviously I go into more detail in that video. Be warned, there are spoilers. This is a book that gave me many feelings because I have tabbed the hell out of this book. It is the story of a soldier from Genesis named Noemi and a young mech from Earth called Abel. They find themselves stranded together on an abandoned spacecraft. Noemi's people are descendant from Earth, however they've broken away from the lifestyle, the culture and everything about Earth essentially, and they're at war with the humans that remain there. The humans from Earth fight their battles with Genesis using mechs, who are artificially intelligent life forms, and this is the story of how they reluctantly come to work together to try and bring an end to the Genesis Earth War. I enjoyed this book. It's a young adult book and it was just fun and interesting, and it had a whole lot of different worlds that were really unique and really interesting. I got some Firefly vibes from it, just loosely, and I enjoyed it. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. Thank you to Alan Nunwin for sending me a copy for review. I thoroughly enjoyed this book. The next book that I read this week was Frogkisser by Garth Nix, which was the Young Adult Chronicles book for March. And I will leave a link to that unboxing on the screen as well so you can check it out. This is I want to say this is a bit like a twisted fairy tale in that you have many popular fairy tale elements woven into this story, and yet it is hilarious. It is funny. I think it is technically classified as a young adult book, but it felt more middle grade to me, which was fine. And it is the story of Princess Anya, who lives with her stepfather, who is an evil duke trying to take over the world, and her older sister, who is basically useless, and her sister's current suitor, Prince Denholm, is turned into a frog by the duke. Anya takes responsibility for trying to turn him back into a prince. In order to do that, she needs to go on a quest to gather some ingredients so that she can actually create a special lip balm that will allow her to turn transformed humans back into their human forms. Along the way, we meet a whole host of different characters like Snow White and the 7 Dwarfs, who are not quite as they seem. We meet Merlin, who again, not quite like he seems. Honestly, it was just fun. I did find parts of it quite slow, but there were parts of it that were just laugh out loud hilarious, and I absolutely loved it. I love the message that it sent of a young girl who is perfectly capable of going out, being brave and achieving something. It gave me very much Paper Bag Princess vibes, which I love that story. But yes, 3.5 stars, a solid read. This was just fun. The next book that I read this week was Toward a Secret Sky by Heather McLean. This was a book that I requested on NetGalley and received a copy for review. And I don't know what I expected going into this book, but it wasn't what I expected, and I did really enjoy it. It is the story of 17-year-old Maren, whose mother has just died, leaving her alone in the world, and so she is sent to live with grandparents she has never met and never known in Scotland. When she gets to Scotland, she begins to unravel a secret history of her family, both her parents and this town that she's living in. She also comes across a strange man named Gavin running around in the woods in a kilt and strikes up an unlikely alliance with him. Alongside that, you get a lot of typical young adult sort of events happening. Maren has to go to school in Scotland, so she's suddenly this strange American newcomer in a Scottish high school, so she has to learn the ropes there. There is a very paranormal spin on this story, which I wasn't expecting, and I was very pleasantly surprised by, and I won't go into it because I think that sort of spoils it. You sort of need to go into it not expecting this part of the story. It was really nice to read a story set in Scotland. There was a lot of intrigue, and towards the end there is a little bit of action, as well as Maren begins to uncover the information around the organisation who her mother worked for. Overall, I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. Well worth checking out. I believe it has been released already. The next book I read is a picture book. It is Mechanica, a Beginner's Field Guide by Lance Belchin, and this book has been shortlisted for the Children's Book Council of Australia Picture Book of the Year Award for 2017, so I picked it up because it is stunning. This book is a futuristic steampunk fictional non-fiction field guide to the Mechanica, which are different animals that have been built to replace animals that have died out on Earth. So in the future, Earth has become uninhabitable. So I think it's 2200. Animals are all but extinct. And so people have engineered these animals. These animals have escaped from their human creators, gone to live in the wild, and begun to evolve. And as they evolve, they begin to turn on their human creators. Told in the form of a field guide, this book is filled with descriptions of some of the mechanica that have been created, from the Chinese butterfly to a blackbird, hummingbird. I mean, just check out these illustrations. They're absolutely gorgeous. And then you get the field guide notes on the other side. So you have a description of the person observing them, as well as some facts. I really love this. I thought this was so fun. I've got so many ideas for how I want to use this book. I gave this 5 out of 5 stars, just for being really unique. You don't find something like this very often, and I love the steampunk aspect of it. The next book that I read was Flame in the Mist by Renee Ahdieh, and this book has been thrown out there as a Mulan-inspired retelling, and there are definitely aspects of it, but I believe Mulan is a Chinese traditional tale, whereas Flame in the Mist is very Japanese. Keep that in mind. So if I say Mulan-inspired retelling, I'm not trying to discredit the original tale. It's just the way that it's been inspired by, I think. Now, this book is being released in May, so it was a review copy that I was sent via NetGalley, and I was so pleased to get it, and I'm so glad that I read it because I absolutely loved it. It is the story of Mariko, who is the daughter of a wealthy family, and at the beginning of the story, she is being sent off to the capital city to be married off to the emperor's son. The son that she is marrying is the son of the emperor's mistress, so he is not in line for the throne, but he does have a very prominent part in their society. But on the way to meet the prince, her convoy is attacked and she is left for dead. Mariko is a very strong-willed woman, and she decides that rather than be moved around like somebody's pawn, like the way that her family are strategically placing her to advance their standing in society and the way that women are viewed, she decides that she doesn't want to have anything to do with that. She wants to actually take her fate into her own hands and go after the people who attacked her convoy. To do this, she disguises herself as a boy and decides to infiltrate the Black Clan, the group of people who supposedly attacked her convoy. Mariko eventually does embed herself in the Black Clan, and that part was probably the most interesting part of the story. The Black Clan is so intriguing, and I won't go into details about who all the characters are and why the clan itself is intriguing, because that's sort of part of the story and I don't want to spoil that. Needless to say, one of the main characters, Okami, is by far the most interesting of the characters, and his relationship with Mariko, which begins as a very unimpressed relationship with this girl disguised as a boy, and then evolves as they begin to acknowledge one another's strengths. One thing I really loved about this story was the really strong message it sent about women. Mariko is not all that sure of herself. She is not brave, and she does not know how to fight, and she is not this character who is trying to make a statement about women. She's doing it for herself, and her strength is in her ability to think and to strategize and to come up with new ways of approaching tasks, and that was just really refreshing. Overall, I gave Flame in the Mist 4 out of 5 stars. I've already pre-ordered a copy of this book because I loved it so much, and I'm looking forward to rereading it when I have a physical copy in my hands. The last book that I read this month was Yellow by Megan Jacobson. This is also a book that has been shortlisted for the Children's Book Council Awards for older readers, I believe. It is the story of 14-year-old Kira, who is living with her alcoholic mother. Her father has left them for another woman, but still lives in the same town. She's bullied at school by her so-called friends, and all of a sudden she begins talking to the ghost of a dead boy via a payphone. Kira has a really tough life, and honestly, this book was so poignant, and I actually have a lot of feelings about it, and I don't know how to put it into words, because this is a book that I would have loved to have had when I was a teenager, and even as a 30-year-old woman, this book is still so relevant to me, because it's not just teenagers who are bullied, it's not just teenagers who feel self-conscious about themselves and who feel like they can't achieve things, because that's a very human thing to do. And there were so many wonderful quotes in this book, and I have to give a shout out to a friend that Kira makes in this book, Willow, who is a social outcast as well, and she is just an awesome, sassy, strong female character in her own right. She's determined that she is going to succeed in life, and she's exactly the sort of person that Kira needs. And their relationship goes through many ups and downs, as you would expect with teenagers. And I'm going to share with you one quote from it that I really loved. And I mean, half of these quotes I'm going to have to write up and stick around places because they're just wonderful. "Let Auntie Willow give you a piece of advice, little one. People only have the power to make you feel small if you let them. Don't give them permission. And a lot of it's common sense, and a lot of it is stuff that you've heard before, but at the same time, it's really powerful. And I think this is really important for young adult fiction. Before I say anything else, let's also take a look at this absolutely stunning cover. I gave Yellow 5 out of 5 stars. Highly, highly, highly recommend it. It is really short, it's really easy to read. There are parts of it that are confronting because it's dealing with alcoholic parents and absent parents and bullying and all of that. It's not an easy read, but it is a fantastic read. Those are the books that I read this week. Just imagine 2 more. Overall, I call this a highly successful reading week. I think so. Let me know in the comments what you have been reading. Have you read any of these books? What are your thoughts on them? I hope that wherever you are in the world, you're having a wonderful day, and I'll catch you guys in my next video. Thanks so much for watching. Bye guys.